from Matthew chapter 5. When Jesus saw the crowds, he went up the mountain, and after he sat down, his disciples came to him. Then he began to speak and taught them, saying, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people revile you and persecute you and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven, for in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you." The Gospel of the Lord. Dear hearers of the Word of God, grace and peace to you from God our Father and from our living Lord and loving Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen. Today is All Saints Sunday, and in the Western Christian theology, the Roman Catholic and Protestant tradition, it's a day that commemorates all those who have died in the faith. It was traditionally the commemoration of martyrs. The word martyr means witness, and the first martyrs, the first witnesses of the faith, were those who were put to death because of their faith. And that's that. When we think of the word martyr, that's what it means to die because of faith, being killed for the faith. But it means witness. So a person can be a martyr and a witness and not be killed, but also witness to the faith as well. But what do you do to those who, the famous Christians, Polycarp, Augustine, those people, great theologians, some of those are very well known. What about those that aren't so well known? What about the ones that the local guy who lived a Christian life was a witness to all those who he met, and he died and nobody noticed, or very few people knew about it? Well, what about them? What about the ones that no one knows about? And so around 300 AD, the church said, we need to remember those people too. It isn't just the very famous people who have died in the faith. We're grateful for them, but there's a lot of other people who aren't famous, and we need to, we want to honor them. So around 300 AD was called All Martyrs Day. And so that's kind of how it got started. And so Christians who celebrate back then in the early church, they had an understanding. There's three different churches. There's three different realms. There's a spiritual bond between those who have died and who are suffering. And Martin Luther understood that term to be purgatory. Okay, and that was a long-held belief. And then, as I mentioned last week in Reformation Sunday, there's the church suffering, so waiting to be purified. The church triumphant, that's in heaven. And then the church militant, which is you and I on earth still living our lives and proclaiming the gospel. I love to tell the story. Rise up, O saints of God. That sort of stuff. So that there's a connection that we have. We confess it in our Christian faith in the Nicene Creed and the Apostles' Creed. We believe in the communion of saints. And that's what we're remembering today with the Carnation. So other traditions have celebrate those who have died in faith in a different way, but that's generally where we fit it. Okay, so that's the history lesson. So what? So what makes a saint? Is it what we wear? Often, sometimes you see a picture of contemporary pictures, or not contemporary, but medieval pictures of church people in the faith with halos painted on there around them. Well, okay, obviously there's someone holy or a saint because they have a halo. Well, is that what it means? Is it because we wear that, or is it something else we wear? Is we go around wearing white? Is that what makes us a saint? The book of Revelation talks about who are these dressed in white. Well, is that what it makes? Well, a young man came to this is in the Middle Ages, he came to a priest thinking he figured it all out, how to be a saint. And I looked out today and saw the snow, and I thought, well, this kind of fits. I thought of this one. It's wintertime. The priest stood out the window looking at a courtyard while a young man, a young monk came in, and he said, I'm proud of my piety. I know I'm a saint. I know it. I go walking around. I wear spotless white robes, just like the saints of old. I never drink any alcoholic drink. Nothing like that touches my lips. Only water. I perform acts of penance. I put sharp edged nails in my shoes when I walk. I'm suffering, and even in the coldest weather, I lie naked in the snow to mortify my flesh, to torment my sinful flesh, to make sure I don't feel any pleasure at all. Daily, the sexton, the assistant, he whips, he hits my back to complete my perpetual penance. I'm constantly in a state of penance. And as the young man continued to speak, the priest looked over at the courtyard. He's just kind of staring out the window like I am here, just looking out there. And another guy, stable boy, came with a white horse. And the horse, he unbridled it, and the horse rolled around in the snow like horses do. And then it drank some water out of the trough, and he noticed that he had horseshoes with that were nailed, fastened with nails. And the priest said, say, look over there. This animal too is dressed in white. He also drinks nothing but water. He has nails in his shoes. And he rolls naked in the snow. Rest assured, he also gets his daily ration of lashes on his rump every day. So I ask you, sir, is that horse, or is that animal a saint, or is it a horse? Does anybody know who that horse is? Mr. Pettit. Okay. All right, there you go. A horse is a horse, of course. All right, so are we a saint? Is it because of what we wear? It's because of what our Lord has done for us. It's not something we do. I'll go back here. Again, the words for saints in the Bible is holy ones, and a lot of medieval paintings here, you can see they all have halos. Well, obviously, but in real life they didn't. So, the most often adjective is used, the holy people, the holy ones. It means sacred or special. Now, let's get over here. This is a communion cup, and it's full of wine, so I got to be careful here. This is a special, a holy cup. It's not because what it's made of is holy. It's earthware. It's been fired. It's special not because of the designs on it. The designs don't make it holy. It's special because we use it for a special purpose. These are our communion cups. We don't use them for coffee. You could put coffee in here if you wanted to. You could put juice or cool, or anything you want, just plain water. But we use them for Holy Communion. It's a special communion. It's a communion of our gathered community. That's why we call it holy, because we do it in a special place, a reserved time, a special time that we call the Lord's Supper, but we also call it Holy Communion. And that's what the concept is, holy This has been consecrated, set apart for special, particular use. And I'm going to set it down here before I break it. There we go. All right. It's the same way with the baptismal font and the pitcher. Earthenware, but sacred because they're used for a particular purpose. To be a saint, then, is to be set apart from God for a special purpose. God has a special purpose for us. Words of Jeremiah says, surely I have plans for you, not for your harm, but for your good, for your welfare, to give you a future and a hope. That's what we all have. God has plans for us, purpose for us. We're set apart for a special purpose. And when we're talking about purpose in the Bible, and I've mentioned this before, whose purpose are we talking about? Well, it's God's purposes. God's purposes. In our first reading from the book of Revelation, the saints are a great multitude that no one can count, from every nation, from all tribes and peoples and languages, standing before the throne, before the Lamb, robed in white, with palm branches in their hands. But saints are not only the faithful who have died. In his Sermon on the Mount, that's what I read from today, Jesus talks about the living saints. Who are they? Those among us who live in hope, even when life seems hopeless, even when all the evidence out there says, well, what kind of hope do you have in this? Are you kidding me? But we don't have hope just in this life. We have hope that there's more to this life than this life. And it gives us the encouragement and the power and the strength to forge forward, to move ahead. To continue in the faith. Who are those? Well, he talks about them. The poor in spirit, the grieving, the meek, those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, those who are persecuted, just like the old prophets were. Jesus promises that God's plan is to restore those who suffer, those who grieve, to blessing and power that they have been denied. Three of Jesus' it's called Beatitudes talk of the living saints who also express their love for their neighbor. Who are those? Well, blessed are the merciful. The merciful. They're not merciful to themselves, they're merciful to others. The blessed are the pure in heart, the ones that are, what you see is what you get. Their words match their deeds. They're sincere. They're pure. Blessed are the peacemakers. There are people who are doing that right now, working, striving to bring peace on earth. The faith and hope of these saints. And Jesus is speaking to people there that are alive, living amongst those that gathered there. That's the whole point of the Beatitudes. These are people that are living. He gathered his 12 around him. I'll just leave it here. The 12 disciples, and he fostered a community that spanned the generations. It spanned the work experience, the life experience of the disciples. Very diverse group of men, very different. Some were very, very wealthy. Some were just barely hanging on when there were fish they could catch. And what did he say? What did he say to those? Wherever two or more are gathered, there I am, in the midst of you. There I am, in the midst of you. And of course, the promise we read from Matthew today, Matthew chapter 5. At the end of Matthew chapter 28, he says, I am with you always. I'm with you always. He says that I'm in the midst of you when you're gathering here. I'm with you always to the end of the age. He's with us. And that means everything. Well, what does it mean to be holy? Okay. Well, in the Old Testament, holiness happened by being in contact with something that was holy. Something, Moses was given this instruction. For 7 days make atonement for the altar, consecrate the altar, then the altar will be most holy, and whatever touches it will be holy. Another instance here, it's a stylized interpretation here. There's Jacob sleeping, and there's a ladder going up. Jacob's ladder. He had a dream. He saw angels going up and down the ladder, and when the ladder touches, was a special holy place. In Jewish tradition, that's where the sacrifice of atonement is made, on the place where he rested his head, because that's when heaven came to earth. He named that place Bethel. Bethel. Interesting. House of God. He had a dream, and he saw that. And he said, God has been here. Well, speaking of dreams, I heard a pastor tell this story. He was on a flight going across country, and he worked for the national church, and so he was flying all the time. And he'd always try to sleep as much as he can, right away. He had one of those little pillows, that goes around your neck so you don't wake up walking the next day like this. And he went to sleep. And in his sleeping, he had a dream. And he had a dream that he was in a plane. And there's something wrong with the plane. But his daughter in the dream wasn't next to him. She was up a couple rows. And he wanted to help her. And he shouted out her name, "Christine!" And of course, he did that in his dream. So he did it in the plane for rough life. He woke himself up. And everybody's looking at him like, sorry about that. Well, he went home and he told his wife about it. She just laughed and said, yeah, that sounds about right, Well, her daughter came home for Thanksgiving, and he said, "Oh, Christy, guess what happened?" And he told the story to her, and she was mortified. She said, "Oh, Dad, what if there was someone on the plane that knew me?" And he said, okay. Well, who knows us? Who knows us? What does the Bible say? The Bible says our names are written in the Lamb's Book of Life before the foundation of the world. Already in there. Are you someone for whom Jesus died? Well, I'm going to say that when we have communion today. Take, eat. This is my body given for you. This is my blood shed for you. Are you one for whom Jesus died? Yes. For God so loved the world that he gave his only Son. That's what Holy Communion is about. Are we someone for whom Jesus died? He told them, he tells us. Is Jesus here? Yes, he is. And he reminds us, you belong to me. You're one for whom I died. I know you. I called you by name. I hold you in the palm of my hand. We're going to sing a hymn at the end of our worship today, walking out. Shall we gather at the river? That's Robert Laurie, who's a pastor in New York, Baptist pastor. He said, I want to be remembered for my preaching. My hymn writing is a side thing. I don't want to be remembered by that. Guess what he's remembered for? His hymns. This is one of them. Shall we gather at the river? It starts out a question. Shall we? That's how it ends. Question mark. Shall we gather? Where bright angel feet have trod. Are we worthy? Are we going to be included? What about those who've lost their loved ones? As a pastor, he lived through times, the 1850s, 1860s, 70s, where there's outbreaks of diseases, and one terrible time, a lot of members of his church died. And they came to him. They kept asking him, Pastor, are we going to see him again? He wrote this hymn in 1864. Something going on in the country at that time. A lot of death going on. Anybody remember what it was? Civil War. That summer was the Battle of Atlanta, where Sherman marched to the sea. And so from the South, 1864 was not a good year. The tide turned for the North. But it was full of death and destruction. Men from all over the country. No one was untouched. And he kept thinking about, all I hear about this river of death, Civil War, river of death, how about the river of life? And he sat down, all of a sudden he saw this, he had this vision from Revelation 22, where we read today. In response to their questions, in response to the death of the Civil War, he gave the answer. It's in the refrain. Yes. Yes is the first word. That's the good news. We've been known by God. We've been claimed by God. We've been washed in the blood of the Lamb. We can wear white. Okay? Because of what Jesus has done for us. So like in the song, yes, we are His saints. Yes, we'll gather at the river, the beautiful river. Gather with the saints at the river that flows by the throne of God. Because of God. Because of Jesus. Thanks be to God. Amen. Okay, let's stand and confess together.